Hello, my friends. I want to talk to you about a dramatic war movie from 2019 called Soldier Boy. A lot of interesting things are waiting for you. Enjoy your viewing. At the beginning of the movie, Sergei sits high up in a tree. He brags about it to his mother, who is cleaning clothes in the river, and to his older brother, who is fishing. Suddenly, an enemy plane appears in the sky, and the mother shouts for her sons to take cover, but the boy says he is not afraid. He charges a slingshot with a pine cone and shoots down the fighter. Sergei is happy and calls for his mother and brother, but for some reason, they are no longer there. It turns out that it was just a dream, and the boy is already trying to wake up his neighbor, who persuades him to run away with her because his family was killed because they were guerrilla aides. Sergei faces the same fate if he is found. They are caught up by men with machine guns, and before they can run out of the house, the woman throws her baby out the window and is killed by bullets. Sergei runs away from the gunfire and burning houses into the forest. The 6-year-old boy wanders among the trees in the dark, lost and frightened. He cannot believe that his mother is dead. He is completely lost in the forest. In the morning, he quenches his thirst on the riverbank. Here, he has to hide from the enemy soldiers who have set up a camp there. But even here, in a small shelter in the roots of a tree, he is in danger. There is a snake. Having struggled to cope with his fear, Sergei manages not to scream and thus survives. The boy picks up the remnants of the Germans' food to satisfy his hunger. Exhausted, he continues walking through the swamps. Loud shots of artillery scare the child, and at night he sees creatures in the forest. He tries to show them by screaming that he is not afraid of them. Only dreams calm him down, because in them his mother pours him and his brother fresh milk. Sergei's strength is running out and he can only doze off in exhaustion. Already in a semi-conscious state, he asks the hedgehog to bring him help. At the last moment, army soldiers find him. The scouts cannot leave the child to die in the forest and abandon their mission, which provokes the commander's anger. The stiffened boy is brought into the tent, and the main man with the wounded arm introduces himself. His name is Nikolai Kuznetsov. Sergei answers questions, and the soldiers realize that he has nowhere to go. He is now an orphan. Then the cook brings hot food, and the soldiers try to surround the boy with care and attention. The next day, the soldiers are sitting on the street. They talk and joke around. Andrei is learning German while tailor Yakov Moisevich is patching his uniform. Among them, we also recognize Rezo, a private and old Yegor Maximovich. The jokes end when an enemy attack interrupts their dialogue. At the infirmary, the nurse, Aunt Katya, tends to Sergei's wounds and feeds him food from Chef Petrovich. The boy asks about Commander Kuznetsov and wants to know as much as possible about his orders and fearlessness. Since his early childhood, Sergei has been surrounded by war, enemies, and the death of his loved ones. So he is most concerned about becoming a man, to become a strong and fearless defender. While Andrei and the nurses bring in the goat they found on the road, Kuznetsov visits the boy and feels how attached he is to him. The boy sees him as a father and a role model. Sergei asks to see his order for bravery and his personalized pistol, but even such a perfect man does not have everything. A nurse asks the commander to leave the boy with them and not send him from the front line to an orphanage. She and all the other soldiers are ready to take responsibility for the boy. The commander does not like this idea. He says that the child does not belong here. The nurses fill out the paperwork and discuss the future of Sergei. Katya is afraid that if he is sent to the rear now, she will never find him. Another nurse, Rita, calls Kuznetsov a stubborn man in uniform who will never deviate from the charter. The soldiers have also become attached to the boy, and Yegor Maximovich asks the commander on behalf of them all to keep him for the regiment. The boy is a symbol of what they are fighting for their children who are waiting at home, for all the civilians whose civilians the soldiers are protecting by sacrificing themselves. But the commander shows different concern and realizes that it is deadly for the boy to be here. That's why the commander remains steadfast. The fighting continues. Katya pulls a wounded soldier out of the trench under bullet and tank fire. Despite his injured arm, Kuznetsov leads the soldiers on the offensive, covering the retreat of the wounded soldiers. The battle is over. Sergei has recovered and is walking around the camp. Meanwhile, a car arrives to send the boy to the rear. The commander gives him a personalized pistol carved out of wood as a parting gift. The boy says he was very afraid for Nikolai and was waiting for him. The major still can't bring himself to follow the rules and offers to adopt the boy. The inspired soldiers do not know how else to show their concern. In Yakov Moisevich's workshop, they argue loudly about the size of the uniform to be sewn for Sergei. Meanwhile, the boy continues to have dreams about a peaceful life and his mother. From the medical center, he moved to the commander's tent. Kuznetsov wakes him up to give him a real military uniform and teaches him how to dress for the time being. The regiment finds itself under another enemy air raid. The boy Sergei finds himself in the midst of the chaos of war. The boy runs among the wounded. He does not know where to go, and is very afraid of losing the people who have become his family. The military doctor is angry with the boy for his excessive panic, and teaches him that now he just needs to believe in victory and help as much as he can. The boy accepts the instructions and starts carrying water to the wounded in the hospital. One of them, with damaged eyes, asks the boy to read him a letter from the rear, but it turns out that Sergei can't read, so he starts making up stories on the fly. This makes the soldiers very happy, and then he sings them a song. After the battle, Katya calms the boy down and puts him to sleep on her lap. Kuznetsov approaches them, but Sergei wakes up at the most inopportune moment. He is only interested in whether the enemies have been defeated. He already calls Kuznetsov his father. Sergei talks about his success in fighting fear and wants to be a real assistant to the commander. The boy realizes that in war everyone is valuable for their skills, so he is interested in those who can be thanked for his uniform. They approach Yakov Moisevich's destroyed tent. The commander says that it is very difficult to thank the war. Sergei continues to imitate adults. He shaves and practices saluting. The boy receives his first real task from the commander. He has to deliver mail to the companies. All the soldiers are very happy to receive letters from the rear. The postmen teach him one of the traditions, the Baron dance, which must be danced by the soldier who received the letter. One day, the boy goes out of the camp to the river and is fascinated by watching the nearest clearing with binoculars. He discovers someone's foot in a haystack and rushes to tell Andrei about it. The boy even convinces him to take the scouts with him. Kuznetsov and his driver pick up Katya and Rita, who were picking berries on the road. Rita flirtatiously asks the commander who is waiting for him at home, but Kuznetsov explains that he is not married. The three scouts go to the place and set fire to the hay. In this way, they smoke out two enemy gunners, who are captured. Sergei continues to deliver letters and is sad when he finds out that not all the soldiers return from their missions. Sergei's real merits are beginning to be noticed. That is why the boy can't wait to get a real weapon and rank. The official adoption permit arrives, which means that the boy will definitely stay in the regiment. Nikolai and the boy go to tell Katya the good news. They find the girl by the river, but it turns out that they are not the only ones looking for her. The boy runs up and saves Katya from the soldiers' advances, but Major Kuznetsov, who was watching from the side, does not dare to approach and runs away. During the next battle, Sergei bravely carries ammunition into the trenches under enemy fire. Yegor Maximovich is worried about him and asks him to hide in the commander's dugout. The boy refuses, and only his superior's order works on him. Sergei reluctantly follows it and watches the battle from the dugout. Communication with one of the units is cut off, and Kuznetsov orders the radio operator to restore it. Sergei, not wanting to be left behind, stealthily takes on this task as well. He finds the wire and crawls out of the trench. From a wounded soldier, he learns how to connect the wires properly and repairs the broken line. Sergei and one of the soldiers sit after the battle and look at the stars. In the Big and Little Dipper, the boy sees his mother and daughter. But where is his father? The boy is now concerned not only with fear and defeating enemies, but also with how people get married and fall in love. The next day, the boy runs to Katya and shouts that his dad is very sick. She drops what she's doing and rushes to help. But she finds that Nikolai is just sleeping peacefully and not complaining about anything. The boy even went to the extent of lying so that the adults would finally confess to each other their feelings, which are obvious to him. But even here, Nikolai does not find anything to say. Katya runs away, but Kuznetsov immediately rushes after her. The instructor Kolya arrives at the regiment with service dogs that Sergei likes very much. The dogs are trained to help soldiers with first aid on the battlefield, keep the wounded conscious and bring bandages. The boy asks to ride in a dog sled, but the dogs start chasing the cat and carry him right into a minefield. At the last moment, Rezo on his motorcycle manages to block the way for the dogs and Sergei, and Kuznetsov manages to catch up with Katerina. He hesitates and worries again. On the battlefield, he is confident and determined, but in front of her he is confused like a child. He finally confesses his feelings and asks Katerina to become the mother of a boy named Sergei. They are interrupted again. The major receives an order that it's time for them to change positions and leave tomorrow. The soldiers march along a country road. On the way, they stop in a village and stay with local residents. In the house, Sergei finally meets his peers, and the owner of the house casually tells him that the putty hole in the floor in the middle of the kitchen was left by a German bomb that pierced the roof and floor. All the people urgently run out into the street. Kuznetsov orders to bring sappers. The bomb is taken out of the house. Having regained strength and dealt with the shell, the regiment moves on. Suddenly, the column hits a mine. Sergei is thrown out of the car, but fortunately he is not injured. But Rezo dies. For him, the war is over. The regiment reunites with the rest of the army, and Sergei and Nikolai find themselves at an audience with the general. The boy asks to be given another assignment, and he is sent to the second company to check the uniforms. They don't take him seriously and offer him tea and chocolate instead of boring tasks. But the boy shows his willpower and refuses the treat. The second company is stationed to check the equipment. Sergei cannot write, but the resourceful boy asks the officer to make a list of the names of the soldiers with torn boots. The general is pleased, and Sergei again does not miss the chance to arrange his father's personal life. He asks the general for permission to marry his father and Katya. The division is awarded the title of Guards, and Sergei dreams of being personally awarded the order. He walks along the line and sees the soldiers who have become his friends, both dead and alive. Andrei, who found him, Good Rezo, Yakov Moisevich and others. They were all proud of the boy. And again his dreams are interrupted by cruel reality. He and Nikolai come under direct fire from the air. Sergei hides in a pit, and the commander is covered with debris in the dugout. The boy tries to move the heavy logs, but in vain. He runs to find help, and finds soldiers who are rushing to save their commander. Nikolai is seriously injured, but is saved. In the hospital, Katya takes care of him, and Sergei comes to visit him. Nikolai encourages the child as much as he can. He says that men do not cry, but the boy cannot hold back his tears when he sees the major who has become his real father. This story is based on real events in the life of 6-year-old Sergei, who took part in the battle. The story shows us the horror of war and teaches us not to repeat the mistakes of the past. People should love each other, and children should play football in the street, but not to fight. If you have watched the video so far, you should know that I am happy to have viewers like you. Thank you for watching to the end. Subscribe to the channel and follow the news. Klontsak Recapped was with you. See you soon.